Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's Fourth Space. Thank you for joining us for today's event, Laughter as Resistance. This is part of the ongoing Unveiling Equity series. And to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube live from Fourth Space, and we are located here on unceded Indigenous lands, Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Here at Fourth Space, we work with our university community to help mobilize knowledge. We co-create daily activities, conversations. We look at questions and projects, things happening across the university. We're running today's event as a live stream Zoom meeting. So those of you joining us by Zoom, if you have any comments or questions, that is fantastic. Please pop those into the chat. We can read them out. Those of you here in the space also, if you have any questions later on, just raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone over to you so that everyone can hear. With that, it's my pleasure. Get things started and hand the microphone over to the Director of Partnerships and Program Development, so the manager of the Center for the Study of Learning and Performance, the CSLP, Zeina Ismail Allouche. Zeina, thank you for coming in, and it's our second event of 2025. I'll get there. Zeina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Douglas, for this charming and warm introduction to the second episode of our series Unveiling Equity. I'm proud to be your first event for this year and the second event of this year. The Unveiling Equity series is hosted mainly by the Center of the Study of Learning and Performance, CSLP at Concordia. And thank you, David Waddington, our co-director, to be here with us also. This is also this event is in partnership with the Canadian Practitioners Network for the Prevention of Violent Extremism, CPN-PREV at UQAM, and the Indigenous Healing Knowledges Chair at Concordia. So again, thank you, Ghaida Hassan and Catherine Kinwiskin Richardson for this trust. I am so happy and honored to be with you today. This is promising to be a transformative conversation about laughter as resistance. This discussion will shine a light on the power of humor as a subversive tool of resistance and healing within decolonized and anti-oppressive contexts. I come from Lebanon. This morning, I was saying that it took me a while to be able to reclaim back my Lebanese identity as a country that was colonized for long years. We feel today, especially today, that there is a hope for a change. I grew up in a context where laughter is not well perceived. It's considered as shame, especially as a woman, as a young girl. Don't laugh, especially don't laugh loudly. Yeah. It doesn't look nice on you. Yeah. I learned from my work with children in residential schools, in orphanages, that laughter is their own mechanism to cope with the system. But also that it's not only to cope, it's to resist the efforts to erase their identities. And these stories also, there was a encounter between those stories and the stories of survivors of the residential schools in Canada, where humor was also an important tool for children, not only to cope, not only to survive, but also to say no to the system in their own way, in their own manner. So I'm so proud to be with you today as friends, but also as people who are marking the landscape of Montreal in terms of being, to resist, of existing, resisting, but also inviting others to embark on your journey. Every one of you coming from a different perspective, but also humor for you is a way to express different narratives, but there is this common thread of being, I would say, settlers on unceded indigenous lands. So Tiohtià:ke, Montreal was generous with us to allow those spaces. And on those notes, I would like to welcome you, Sandy, Saad, and Johnny, as people who are like finding, like curving your own pathways in a tough but also in a welcoming city. So on those notes, I will invite you to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a bit about what brought you to what you're doing now.
Do you want me to start? You're inviting me to
Don't
start.
forget that you need to use the mic.
No, I don't. By the way. Thank you for volunteering me, Sandy. Hi, thank you. I would like to thank you a lot for inviting us, for inviting me to be part of this discussion, because it means a lot to me. After 10 years of being in Canada. So, my name is Johnny El-Hajj. I'm an immigrant, I'm a settler, I am a citizen, and I'm trying to navigate between all those three together. I came here 10 years ago, so now I have 10 years of experience in Canada, and before coming to Canada, I had 10 years of experience outside Canada, in Lebanon, and the Arab world. And I like the word immigrant because in immigration, you also have this stretch between two identities. Between the identity that you bring with and the identity that you become, and you are always becoming here. So and it's interesting. I would like to talk about the power dynamics when you change identities, because the person that you are in Lebanon is totally different than the person you are here in Canada, only because there is a change in power dynamics, I like my experience with Canada, because Canada has a lot of refined image about the nation of Canada and its respect for the citizens and for the human rights and for justice and for equity. And yet, on the other side, there is the lived experience of us as immigrants, and this creates tension as well. And I use comedy in order to try to shed the light on this tension and put it in the center and say it in a joke about my experience, but at the same time it reveals a bigger reality. So humor is a big part of what I do. During the day I work in strategy, during the night I work in culture and in creating comedy. And that's it. I think I talked enough for now, right?
Hi, my name is Saad Finish. I'm a Moroccan queer comedian. I recognize myself about what you said about, I moved here 10 years ago. It's actually, this Friday it's going to be 10 years. I recognize myself. I came way younger than you here. I was 18. And when I came here, everything was so different. Everything was so different. And all the codes that I had, all the things that I thought were cool, here were not cool. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I need to delete my Moroccan identity, so in order to have a cool identity, and I became this person that was totally different than the person I was in Morocco. And when I started doing comedy 4 years ago, I reconnected with my inner Moroccan self, and I came back to my roots, and I assumed way more my roots and my Arab origins, and I think that was a good experience to have, to like get really far away from my identity and then to reconnect to it. And that's how I started comedy, and that's what I love about doing stand-up comedy. How I started was 4 years ago. It was not on purpose. I went to an event that was seek discomfort event, so everyone would do something that they always wanted to do for the first time. And I was like, okay, I can do stand-up comedy. And I did it for like 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes of really bad jokes. But I loved it so much. And I went out from off stage and I was like, oh my God, like, I want to do that again. So I love talking about myself, but I hate talking about myself at the same time when there's no space for that. So I'm never gonna do it. But on stage, I'm like, actually, I'm allowed to do it here. And that's what I loved about doing it. And yeah, we can talk about the rest later. I'll let Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeina, and thank you for the choice that you made. They are my friends, so I like to spend more time with them doing that. My name is Sandy Albitar. I am originally from Lebanon. It's been 16 years that I live in Canada. I first immigrated to Elmer, Gatineau, where I had many death ego repetitively, one after the other, because of the cultural shock or the lack of it. But anyway. And then after 8 years, I moved to Montreal. I think that I relate to what you said. I felt coming to Montreal and the fact that I was able here to start like more creative projects, specifically like with Johnny. We worked on a collective of Arab artists that allowed us to be with people that speak our language, and we started doing comedy with them. But my relationship with humor started way earlier. In Lebanon, I used to work as a clown doctor in different hospitals, mainly in oncology and pediatrics. And then when I moved to Canada, I created an intervention for older adults in palliative and end-of-life care, where I used to do visits of a clown to like sit and open a space for play and permission to sit with the awkwardness and the discomfort of the inevitable, thank
yes.
you, reality of like loss and grief. So my journey with humor started more in hospitals and in healthcare settings, but for sure it built a specific type of sensitivity to the type of humor I use. And then later on, when I moved to Montreal, I ventured into stand-up comedy, first in Arabic, and then it was so much fun, hence started performing in English and a little bit in French.
What makes you a humorist? Like, what are those ingredients? Is this navigation in terms of identities? Is it the way of coping? Why humor? Yes, you went to services. Yes, it was by a chance you went, and then you discovered that it means something to you. Johnny, you are using humor recently as a way to express resistance against the systemic power, authority, whatever, violence, we can name it. What was that ingredient that made you see that humor speaks to you at the personal, but also at the engagement level? You don't have to respect order, so if you feel like starting, Sandy.
Go ahead. So for me, it was, as I said, it was like the fact that I was allowed to speak. That's how it started, but that's not how it continued. I would say the continuation of love and humor for me was that I had a different vision as a queer Arabic person. I had a different perspective of what people know about Arab people, and I loved that with the intersectionality, I could have this like unique vision that makes people be like, oh, I thought that Arabs were this way, but actually no, they can be this way. And I thought that queer people were this way, but no, they can also be this way. And that's what I loved about it. And another thing is that I loved creating representation. So when I started doing queer jokes, I was really scared to do them in like just regular shows. And I started doing them in queer spaces and queer shows at the beginning. And then I had like Arabic people and Moroccan people coming to me and be like, dude, thank you so much for saying this. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm a queer person myself, and there's no representation, so it feels really good to listen to you, you know? And then there was also non-queer people that were just like, oh, thank you so much for talking about this. I didn't know that this was an actual thing and that this was possible. the way you're talking about, because I consider myself as a Muslim, as a culturally Muslim person, more in a spiritual way, but I consider myself as a Muslim person. So in my text, I can be talking about Islam and then talking about queerness in the same text. And that's what I liked, is the return of people saying, thank you for talking about this. We need that in a space. That made me encouraged even more to talk about it. So yeah, I don't know how about you guys. Yeah?
Thanks. Like you were talking about this, and I'm thinking about my childhood. Like as a child, I enjoyed being funny, or I got validation, mostly like from the comebacks that I would say to my parents' friends. So it really made me feel present, and also, you know, laughing with someone is maybe one of the most beautiful feelings I have in life. So I just seeked it over and over again to later be interested in expressing myself. Being raised in Lebanon like my family is are Jehovah's Witnesses, and this is like a minority everywhere in the world. I want to say in Lebanon, but they're a minority everywhere in the world, and who have like a very specific way of living. So I was always an outcast in my social surrounding, and humor is really a buffer to deal with being different, with the discomfort. Also, like we grew up in Lebanon, and we had abundance of trauma. يعني wow, how abundant that country is in terms of like financially, security, socially, on so many levels. I would say definitely humor is my coping skill. And I noticed that I'm the funniest when I'm most scared or most stressed or worried, because apparently my body needs to help me to release this tension, and I need to make sense of it. So I start processing in all awkward and weird ways. The fact that I was like trained as a clown helps me to be that in real life, not to take myself so seriously and allow myself to play with the ideas. So my sense of humor is something that was developed throughout the years. It continuously changes. It continuously go like maybe in places that are more serious, or it goes to more profound ways as it's happening. But like you asked about an ingredient, and I think the ingredient is my curiosity and my need to play. I need to play because life is so dull if not with play. So yeah.
My experience with humor is different, and depending on the always a human. It helps me cope with the status quo, right? It helps me figure out the system that I'm living in. When I used to live in Lebanon, there were a lot of problems, so there were a lot of humor, a lot of jokes, a lot of things that are happening around, and a state of looking at a state that we want that is not there. So we tried. It was a path to raise our voices, right? And when I came here to Canada, it was so calm. The problems that we had in Lebanon changed drastically. So it took me a couple of years to figure out, okay, what am I talking about here? What should I talk about? And then Sandy mentioned something that I think she's really right for me about it. It's tension. I think it comes between the tension, the stretch between what you want and what you experience, right? And my experience as an immigrant here created some tension, and I started seeing it in the assimilation or integration or whatever construct you want to name it, once we get to be part of this society. And then you have the expectations of what Canada is that you come with, right? Mm-hmm. So this what creates the tension, the lived experience and the expectations, and then it raises some voices towards what should be, mm-hmm. not what is happening. And this is where humor comes for me. It connects with injustice, and when we talk about injustice, we think about big topics that we are talking about micro injustice that we use in every day. The effort that we have to put more than others in order to get or to reach to the thing that we want. So, and it's a validation for me when you bring it from the personal and you put it in a public space, and suddenly you recognize that, I'm not alone here.
Yeah.
There's a group of people, it's cultural, who are feeling that way. And sometimes it's much more than cultural, it's systematic. So playing with this, enjoying this, I think it's beneficial for us as a society. And humor is a lovely way to make it happen and laugh about it.
Like you were talking about humor and laughter as women. Just to add on your experiences, but sorry, I'm the only woman comedian on this table. I'll take a little bit extra space. Like you were talking about, like in Lebanon, for example, being a woman and laughing. I remember, like, I had women that come with all good intentions to me to tell me, and if you want to laugh, and cover your mouth, because my gums are so big. And that when I laugh, they can see inside of my mouth, which made me laugh even louder, actually, just as an act of rebellion. يعني, telling me this, or I go, like laughing even more. Because of that, it's so true. And they want us to be like quiet and reserved, and but why? يعني, life.
Close your legs.
Yeah, no, not my mouth, not my legs, yo. I'll go wider. So yes, it is very difficult, but this is not only in like the Arab world. I come here, if we want to talk about like maybe clowning or stand-up comedy, this is a in communauté that is mainly run by men with very sad stories, unfortunately, and really weird power dynamics. So it's a fight even more. I feel that there is already lots of projections and stories projected on you being a woman in comedy.
Yes.
And a lot to juggle.
Can I take it from there? Because I also remember during the beginnings when I went to see you at the beginning, I've been cut out of your progress during the last 2 years, but I was observing as much as I can. But I remember at the beginning, I went to one of your shows, Sandy, and I got worried. And like now I will tell you why.
You need context why she was worried.
I will tell you why. Because I felt like the same kind of burden that we bring with us from there about exposure, etc., and the issue of representation. And in my Ph.D. Work on research creation, I studied a lot the issue of representation. And I got worried actually about your self-representation as a woman in a context that is not safe. We were in a space, there were like 30 people watching your show, and you revealed a lot genuinely and generously, and in a very candid way who you are and how you are. And sometimes when we look at the people watching, are they ready? Can they take it? Are we at that point to accept this? And I got worried for you, and I went to you, I told you, Sandy, it's a lot about, like, it's a lot of self-exposure.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Yeah.
At that moment, I confess that I don't regret, because I feel that there is an element of safety when you do that exposure and self-revelation in a context that is not ready for it.
Yeah.
So how, I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, for sure, I remember that. For sure, I remember that, and I remember your comment about this. It was something, يعني. I want to like say a few things about this. Sartre says, hell is other people. To start with that, hell is other people. Sure. And we live in a society where being real is so scarce. It's much easier to like wear masks all day, we're in a professional setting where we should not reveal our emotions and who we are, and we're so scared. My way of fighting the system or rebelling against the system is being myself. This is how I want, like, I don't want much in life, I just want to be me. I know, like, I remember also, at that time when I was doing comedy, I feel that I presented things in a way that was too much in the face. During my years of experience, I learned how to tame that. So now I can maybe present the same ideas, but I'll take your hand slowly, and bit by bit, maybe I would present that to you. Lack of experience for sure, but still, that doesn't change that I am willing to go there in these stories, and because we have all kind of stereotypes and boxing people because we expect just one way of things of being. If we're not ourselves, this will not change. We need to, like, someone need to take the risk and say, okay, this is what I have. Take it or leave it, like me or don't like me. So it's hard because I am taking risks always of losing certain people, but I think this is a loss in the right place. Like, yeah, these are the people that we should lose because it will refine and clean like our audience. We will find people that are like us, but also people's reactions is the way that their reflection would help me grow, improve, become better, be conscious that, oh, if I say it like that, this is how it would be received. Maybe I'll find like a different perspective. And it's so beautiful that we could do this with humor because really it is the cheapest and the most precious buffer in the world. You can swallow lots of hard ideas if you're laughing with them. Yeah.
No, yeah,
I think
totally agree.
you encountered the same
I
type
did,
of
yeah,
of
I did
risks.
lose some people on the way.
Yes.
I did lose some people on the way by talking about myself freely and saying who I am and expressing who I am. But what I wanted to say is, as a comedian, it is a sacrifice that you need to do at some point as a comedian to be genuine about your experience and to be genuine about what you want to say, because there's so many comedians that are going to be talking about like very like
Common things.
common things. There is so many of them, and as an artist, if you want your art to be meaningful, you need to go look deep in what hurts you. And I mean, that's for me, that's my experience, is I need to go look for what means to me and what is hurtful and was what I want to like exorcise to make it outside of myself, and I feel way better about it when it's outside. And I think that's what a comedian is. That's what humor is to talk about. So, like, comedians are the only artists that we don't have a medium. We don't have a medium. Like, a musician is going to have a medium. The medium is myself. The medium is my story. The medium is me. We're the only artists that don't have any medium. So my medium is my story, and I think everyone is. A teacher in like a comedy class told me once, everyone is actually a comedian. We all have a story that we said first time, and then we said it again, and then we said it again, and then every time we say it, we realize when people like react and when people like laugh, and we all have that story. So we're all kind of comedians in a way, and yeah, that's what I like about it. Just telling exactly what I feel. I don't know if you want to add something to it.
I'll add that there is a power in the personal experience and the personal story, and comedy is always personal. You cannot have fun about other people without having yourself, your positioning there from your own perspective, because then you are talking about the borderline of bullying. So there's always you in the experience. It's very personal. You have to be very generous about sharing, about opening yourself on stage in front of others. It's welcoming the thought of revealing yourself for others. And this is enough kind of, it requires courage to be there. So I would say when the comedian decides to take a topic on stage we've been working with it for a long time. We've been struggling with it for a long time, and we reached a point where, you know what, we are ready for it to go public. So let's take it there. Yeah. So I think, and sometimes when it creates this shock on stage, or when the audience it's not ready, sometimes it's okay for them not to be ready. Sometimes it's okay for them to shock them with this idea and let them leave and take it with them, and later at night before they sleep they think about it. So it doesn't have always to be funny or on a certain level that everybody accepts it. For me, change starts when you plant the seed of a new idea, which could be shocking at first.
And like, just to add to this, sometimes we are not ready to the topic that we're talking about. Yeah. And also it's good to learn that in the present moment while we're performing, because like developing a joke is not easy. It requires this trial and error. Sometimes we're gonna make a joke and then know that, go work on it, habibi. Go think about it again. But this is the process. And yeah.
Can I add something to you?
Don't fight over mic, guys.
we have to also remember that the comedy, and the stand-up comedy in particular, is extremely dynamic process. Yeah. It changes with any variant that comes into play. It changes with the joke writing, the joke delivery, the type of audience that is there, and the craft develops with time as well. So there's a lot of experimenting out there, and this is why sometimes we're not ready, but we just say it. And in theater, they teach us that you rehearse for like 6 months when you do theater, and you learn a lot, but the performance times sometimes is as important as the 6 months of rehearsals that you did. So live show time is extremely important for us to add to the knowledge of the expertise in comedy.
Yeah, he said everything.
Okay, so I have two burning questions. I will go one by one. So there is a fine line between like what's your story and what is the story of others, and you're sometimes part of the story of others, and you show up in the story of others, and they show up in your stories. And I think there's this ethical fine line between those two sides of one story. When you have the right to tell your own story, but then having others showing into that, I don't want to, you're crossing that line or not, but how do you still do that while preserving the dignity of others? Because again, sometimes you cross that line. We watch comedians, we watch stand-up comedies, and sometimes that line is blurred. And I might say unethically. So how do you think of that? How do you navigate that? What are the control mechanisms so you don't cross that line while sharing your stories?
Do you have any? Yeah, I can go. For me, knowledge is very important about what I'm talking about, right? Like positioning is extremely important. The position that you acquire knowledge from as somebody who has full access to the experience is totally different than somebody who's an observer from distance. So doing the extra effort on knowing the context, the generic context that includes different perspectives is important. So here, there is a responsibility of education. For me, I don't know, different comedians approach it differently, but for me, I always talk about my experience with the topic. So it kind of gives me a space to express what I am feeling about the topic. And if there are some things that I do not understand, I state them as part of the joke and I make jokes about them. And then, but it's me there. It's me navigating the topic while doing the research about what everybody is thinking about it. And this will help me preserve, not violating anybody in treating the topic, right? So it's always the safe side is me doing the research and coming with my experience about the
Your
topic,
voice.
and then opening the dialogue to see how everybody else think, and then other jokes would come from that.
Yeah, a really simple answer. Sometimes I would just ask the people, concerned people. I'd just be like, hey, I wrote this. You're like, there's an anonymous, like, I'm not talking about you, I'm not saying your name or anything, but are you okay with this? And people would just be like, yeah, sure, or no. And as simple as that.
I feel that like my career puts like extra limits on me. I'm a therapist, so there are people that I work with, like my clients sometimes are watching me perform, and most of the topics that I use in my comedy are or related to my like own difficulties in life, but I do process my work as well because of the universal experience of humanity. The fact that I worked in like palliative and end-of-life care gave me lots of stories that maybe I need all my lifetime to process, and hence you will see them in comedy. But I use the same concept that I would use in my therapy sessions. If you cannot know who the person I'm talking about, it's Mr. X or Mrs. X, it's okay. We're talking about human, like people that are in our lives. It happened so far that all the people in my personal life that came to my comedy have already passed away. to a place that it
Lucky
has
for
become
them.
funny. That I made lots of like jokes about my dad. He passed away. Then my grandma passed away, so I had material related to her. And then I was telling once my grandpa that I'm making jokes of like these jokes. He tells me, you always make fun of, my grandpa was in the hospital then, like at his deathbed actually. He told me, do you always make fun of your dad that he's dead? I told him recently I started making fun of my grandma too since she passed away. And then like it took him 2 minutes to realize that he was next. And he was next. I also have I also had material that were so funny, like that happened like around his death. It's just the way life is so absurd. Around these moments, so many stupid things happen, and then like what best than like being able to honor it with laughter, you know. So there's this part, but I'm also aware that eventually, hopefully, and I will not lose the rest of my family, but I want to continue my comedy career. So I'll go look for other people that are dead now. I'm like
Or
what
you
I
start
want.
killing.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. That's like a segue for my new serial killer. No, but I wanted to say that sometimes, sometimes we will take the risk and maybe name certain people and just sit with the discomfort of it. And I don't know what life or like our art would demand from us. You know, there are certain people that we can laugh at, like Donald Trump, Legault, Justin Trudeau, because we're pissed at them, right? We could do this and everybody's gonna be like, yes, for sure, they're going to be on the same page. You never know who would jump this and be in this group, and it's gonna be okay for us. Yeah. It's just how we do it. I don't think there is a firm line.
It's the way you handle it.
Absolutely.
And the way you frame it, and also sometimes the preparation it takes. So Saad, you mentioned taking the
consent from people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Consent from people. And there is also the context of the way you go about the story, how you frame it, what language you use, and also allowing maybe the space for people to be them and seeing them as well, like as a way to navigate who they are in a safe way, and allowing them to laugh and cry in the same space.
Yeah. There's a concept in comedy called punch up and punch down, and you need to have a balance of punch up and punch down. So punch down is making fun of others, and punch up is punch down is making fun of like someone that is going to be in a vulnerable position. And punch up is making fun of Donald Trump, let's say, of someone who's going to be in a powerful position. And punch up can also be making fun of yourself if you made fun of others. So you need to have that kind of balance of, if you do a punch down, you need to do a punch up. So yeah, you're not just making fun of vulnerable people.
Yeah, and I think...
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So it makes a difference when people are already, as you say, in power, and they are already public and they are known, and they assume like being known and being famous and being in position of power comes with it, the package also. But if people are in a position of vulnerability or silenced or not prepared, not consulted, or adding stigma, because sometimes, and like I have this sense of alertness.
Yeah.
So once I saw someone, for example, using a terminology about disability that is in our lay language is very like it lacks respect, even if it's used in a context of exposing the term, but you don't know how it will be received by the other side. So that, I think, the internal alertness and sensitivity to what can be offensive can frame the way you handle others.
I feel also like what you're mentioning is not something that you will only see in in comedy. Our art is a product of who we are, how we think, the work that we have done on ourselves and our stereotypes and our way of understanding the world. So this is a work that we need to do like consciously every day. Bringing to comedy, like I try when I want to talk about things that could be sensitive to use self-deprecative humor, because if I can do it to me, people can reflect on me without offending them. Still, when I do that, I need to continue be able to have like self-respect. So what I try to do is to be able to use humor to laugh about it without being threatening to the ego. So how can we laugh about it without taking ourselves too seriously, but also still be respectful to it? I think people need to learn to take a punch, to take a joke. We don't need to be very sensitive because life is so difficult. We need to be a little bit resilient. Yeah, exactly. And humor is a way to be resilient. But that doesn't change that our perspective, what we will see from it in humor is just the tip of the iceberg. The work we need to do every day and our thoughts and how we see the world, our own biases, and we need to work through these things continuously if we want to go somewhere in any kind of art, not just humor.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that there is also another concept in humor that it's like a triangle of, like, when you say a joke, there's a triangle of three informations. So there is the context, there is the timeline, and there is who's receiving the joke. And if none of this, like, one of them is always going to be touched. If you, let's say, if I make a joke about a sickness, a cancer, let's say, so everybody's going to laugh about it except the person that just learned they had cancer this morning, or just learned one of their families had cancer. So everyone is going to receive a joke differently because of the context, where you are, and who's receiving the joke. So you need to, like, kind of think about that triangle when you're saying a joke, and try to respect everyone when you're, and try to, like, think about that triangle so your joke is gonna touch everyone. But at the same time, sometimes some people are gonna be mad about some things you say, and I think that's the rebellious side of humor, is you're gonna say stuff that are very true sometimes, and maybe sometimes people are gonna be mad about it, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's just a joke.
Johnny, I'm sorry, do you have something?
Yes, I wanted to add something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add a layer to the question to Johnny, but go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm also, like, thinking about like a reality. For example, last year, with everything that was happening in like in our countries, it was very hard for me to like go to a regular club and perform and expose the things that are hurting me right now to like two people who are going out to have a beer and have fun on Saturday evening. So it made it so difficult for me to stand in front of these people and perform. However, I was able to perform and talk about these things that are very difficult for me for an audience that was in pain like me. So an audience where we were on the same emotional level, I was able to laugh with them about like my pain. And that's the same thing, like when I used to work as a clown doctor in the hospital, I go to every room to play with people for them. It's like a type of servant leadership. Yes, I am like bringing the laughter here, but I'm doing it for you. I had to be so sensitive and on the same emotional wavelength with them for my humor to be appropriate. Because anything else in these situations when we're not doing okay is inappropriate. This is the point that I...
Johnny, before answering this specific question, or also to add to it, I remember a video that you released on your channel, YouTube. You have now it's called Strubia.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, but back then it was not. So it was mainly for me the first video ever I see from an immigrant from Lebanon who is going critical about their immigration journey. I remember the video. I laughed a lot, but also I felt like it was tears and laughter at the same time. You were serious, like in your videos, you're serious, but it's a lot of like messages. I remember reading the comments, and there was a big amount of comment against you, like about being, like it's about lacking gratefulness, lacking gratitude, that how come you're saying this, go back and live in Lebanon. I remember those comments. So
I remember them too.
yeah, I know. So adding to the question of navigating and this fine line, how do you navigate backlashes as well? Because these are the people also getting the ticket and going to see you, and this is how you're earning your life. Like, so how do you do about that?
Well, first for me, it's a validation that it's triggering conversation, right? Here we are talking about the expectations before coming here and the lived experience, like. And many of those, they approach the topic that you're not grateful enough, you're talking bad about the hands that is giving you food and all that. But for me, I give value to myself a lot. And when somebody devalue my experience or my knowledge, there's a trigger somewhere here, right? So when I came to Canada, I chose to come to Canada. I immigrated to come to Canada because I thought Canada is in a different place from the messaging that they send to the world, from the values that they believe in. And I immigrated because I wanted a better place to live in. And when I came here and I saw that, no, that's not what I expected. And then I stayed a little bit and I saw that nobody is talking about it. Like, why? There's a problem here, right? And then comedy comes as the main channel of expression for the marginalized, if I can say, because the mainstream communication and the mainstream media has authority, and it's kind of defined by the messages that passes through the authority. And what jokes make, it kind of diminishes this authority because you're laughing at it. Mm-hmm. It brings the authority or the hegemony or the domination on a power level where you can see it and talk about it. And I have a theory about those people who and it's kind of, I'll make it quick, it's kind of understandable from my part, because most of us, we face challenges to integrate, and then we get devaluated, and then we get discriminated upon, and then we move on and we become very strong. And then when we look back, We say, okay, we've passed that period. What's ahead of us is brighter, so let's forget about that phase. But when I look back, I see hundreds and thousands and millions of immigrants coming and being exploited in the same systemic way. I don't want to pass through it. And when I send this message, you see like a big part of those who said, we've passed this hassle, why are you talking about it again? Move on. And the other who would say, no, we should talk about it because this is our reality. And if we do not address it, change will not come. So I am aware of all this. And for me, the aim for my comedy is to make an impact and open a discussion that could take us in many different areas. And this video was one of those. And my comedy is known to be talking serious talk, but with the wittiness and with kind of creating a tension that would create a little bit of humor out of it. Thus, my show that I'm performing now in Arabic for 1 hour, it's called Mish Am Bimzah. I'm not kidding, I'm not joking. Right?
Saad, if you allow me to add to this backlash dimension, the identity revelation in a context that is not easy with those lived experiences and those realities. How did you experience this? Was there any backlash here and back home in terms of sharing your queer identity, but also you identify as a Muslim, you have that spiritual dimension of your identity? And I'm saying in our context, from an Arab perspective, there are still issues around that. But even here, when we think that Canada and the world is inclusive, and we know that it's not the case.
Yeah.
There are specific spheres, yes, maybe, but it's not an easy exposure. Any backlash that you can mention?
Yeah, there's a few backlashes. There is the comments online, there's comments on socials. There is my dad that I don't talk to anymore because of that. That's one of the backlashes. But you know what? I think it was worth it because, as Sandy said earlier, all I'm asking for in this life is just to be myself. And I don't know when I'm going to be dying. I just want to be myself and be honest to the people that are around me. Not even just because I want to be free. It's just because I want to be honest about who I am. But I'm not to complain, honestly. It's a privilege to be saying this in a country like this. And I think it's, in comparison to my friends that I have still in Morocco, I think it's a privilege to be thinking of those kind of questions. It's like you have not enough problems that you can go and dig deep in this. But that helps people that don't have time to dig deep in this. So that's how I see it. And backlash is always going to come, and compliments are always going to come, and to balance the backlash. And as you said, it's not only an Arabic it's not only an Arabic issue, it's also here in Quebec. Montreal is not the rest of Quebec, and sometimes when I perform outside of Montreal, people are having more thoughts that even Moroccan people are ahead of it. And so yeah, I think it's an issue that is very, very contemporary, and I think that's why I make jokes about it, is to make fun of it. I think naturally when my dad, I'm just gonna take how it helped me go through this. When my dad knew that I was queer, big stuff happened in family, and you have two reactions to drama and to big trauma. You have two reactions: is either you cry or you laugh. And that's why in funerals there is so many people laughing in funerals, because you're so tense that you just release it by making jokes. She makes jokes about her dad that just died, and her grandma. And I think laughing it depends on you, but laughing can be one of the ways to release the tension. When I came out, there is some people that the reaction was like, "Oh my God, it's so sad." That actually didn't make me feel better about myself. But the people that roasted me and be like, "Gay," I loved to that. I thought that was funny, and I was like, "Thank you, thank you for that." And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you don't talk to your dad anymore. That's sad, but don't worry, man. Like in the Christmas season, it's known for dads coming back to their kids to make peace. Oh, I forgot, you don't have Christmas in your culture." So he's never gonna come back. So that made me laugh. That made it like not dramatic, and I like that. So yeah, I don't care about the backlash. I don't know if you have something to say.
So I will give you 1 second to breathe, and I will invite people joining us here or on Zoom. If they have any question, please just take the space. So while preparing for this, we'll take Sandy and the backlash.
Just before we continue, those of you online who would like to ask a question, you can do so by typing it into the chat and we'll read it out loud for you, or you can use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to turn on your camera. Those of you here in the space, just raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. Thanks.
Sorry, we're having so much fun without you here, guys.
Yeah, we will keep it to ourselves.
We're having inside jokes. We're so sorry about that.
So,
We're talking about backlash. Yeah.
For example.
I don't know. Like I could talk about backlash like from so many different angles, but I feel, one of the things that I try to work on is to become so present in myself that I am not so impacted by people's negative or even positive comments. Because if I want to live by the positive comments and they will go, I'm gonna feel so empty. So I try to take the backlash as part of the game. Sometimes you put the energy to respond if it's from someone you care about, but how many people are you going to care about? Also, like, it's good practice to be like just like, I'm gonna use resilient for
Grounded,
grounded
maybe?
also,
Grounded.
and because the positive and the negative will come and go, and I'm gonna live with myself forever. So I'll take myself as like une boussole. This is how I think about backlash. Like I take note of the good and the negative that is being said and keep it there. Yeah.
And sometimes the backlash,
Yeah.
it's some evaluation of values.
Yeah.
And you're okay with it. You're at peace with it. And you want it to be, and take a distance from it, and that's it. This is who I am. If you're okay with it, we're on the same wavelength. If not, it's too bad. We're on two different sides. And it gives you more meaning to your identity, sometimes.
Let her add to it.
Please.
Really, the past year and a half, what has happened in the world, I feel radicalized many of us. It's much easier for me right now to know that, I don't know, 60% of the world is at a complete opposite end of the way I view the world. So for me, already 60% are different. It's easy to make them 70%. Who cares? You know, you just use this to know more. Who are your people? Before, maybe I used to feel that, oh, I want to love everybody. I don't have enough energy to love everybody. It's good to know that I could love only 30%. I'll give them better quality. But I know that they maybe deserve it a little bit more. Sorry, but we have become like here in the world. There's a huge gap, and it's.
We need to live to learn how to live with acknowledging that there is this gap.
Yeah,
and maybe,
we're not for everyone.
Yeah.
Seriously, we're not for everyone.
Yeah. I'm wondering about that, and it invites me to reflect also on my on my own ways of doing things, because sometimes we put on our shoulder the job, the function that we always need to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a way, and it comes with the work you do, like someone like me who's been working in the field, like social work, child welfare, whatever. It's about always identifying the gap and seeing how we can bridge or even like bypass, but it's always about reaching to another. And sometimes we need, like, I like your idea because
Sometimes we need to burn bridges.
maybe, or sometimes to acknowledge that there is another side, and it might be impossible for me to cross the bridge.
Would it be me?
And then also it might mean that you will make compromises on essential ethics. Yes, and then I go back to when you're talking about like the boussole, who is me, and I see it grounding. And coming to Canada, I learned more to be grounded in indigenous ways of healing, of knowing, but also of connecting. And I've learned that building relationships, but like it's not about only building relationships, it's about the reciprocity. So if we cannot meet in that reciprocity, it means there's something missing and you cannot fake it. People say fake it until you make it, and it's not true. I think as much as you can be grounded in who you are, genuinely, as much as you can make what is meaningful for you to make it. And I think this changes a lot in terms of perspective, but also in terms of the role of humor and in reaching to others, but also others who are ready to meet us. And then there is this relationship building. So having said that, you are in the market. And I'm sorry to use those words. And we saw what happened in those festivals, big festivals in Montreal, and all the scandals around what's happening in terms of harassment, etc. But you need to exist. You need to be more vocal, but you need also to work and get income, because this is what you do to live in a way or another. So how do you navigate this tension again and again? It's all about tension, but it's a major tension.
Absolutely. And also, like any job that you would get in the or career in the arts or culture, like know that you're gonna live slightly poor for a big part of your life. It's a reality. And stand-up comedy is really a career that is abused by producers in Montreal. I know many producers that have not paid comedians or paid very little, and because it's a thing that happens in clubs, they really disregard you as an artist. So, personally, I eat and dress, obviously not from stand-up, because because obviously I have money to pay for clothes. So I'm a therapist. My main income is from a different place, but also you said we need to exist in this. The past year, I was not able to perform in many artists' productions. Yeah. There are few people that are like me where I could perform with them, because I know the audience that would come and see them are people that maybe are a little bit more like politically conscious, more sensitive. But also, like last year, it was convenient for me to use humor to deal with grief. So I did not perform in lots of shows last year, but I did produce myself events under the name of Not for Laughs. I was doing comedy shows that are called Not for Laughs, and we were bringing people together and bringing comedians and different artists to sit with grief. You know, comedy or like humor is a powerful tool. It's a great, honestly, and a beautiful tool to deal with like gaps, to deal with grief, to deal with difficult topics. You know, it was convenient for me, for example, to do a memorial service to bring people together, to sit in the emotions that are uncomfortable in our body, and use humor to do that. So, one, we need to be creative. Two, we need to be a little bit badass and say no and not compromise a lot. يعني, maybe not be hungry to be known and say, okay, I'll take this spot or that spot because we think that this is going to be our breakthrough in comedy. Things don't function like that. It takes a little bit of humbleness also to do that.
Yeah. No, yeah. Totally agree. I think that's a subject that touches not only comedy, but like all sectors. There's bad people and good people everywhere. And in comedy, like in the contrary to Sandy, I know that the English stand-up community is smaller than the French stand-up community, where I perform, and there is a lot of comedy shows. There's so many comedy shows. There's so many opportunities, either in Montreal or outside of Montreal. There's so many spaces that it gives you and allow you the choice to say no and to be like, I don't want to work with this person. I know this person is problematic. I don't want to work with this person. I don't want to be in this show because I know there is a problematic person that is going to be on this show. Without going into like the cancel culture or whatever, that's my choice and I don't want to play there. And I think that's something we have in the French stand-up comedy community that maybe the Anglos don't have. I lived just by doing stand-up for like 2 years. So I was like accepting everything because I needed to make money out of it. And at some point I was making my choices out of, I need to make money in the contrary that I want to make art decisions. And recently, like since like this summer, I started working at a cafe just so I can pay my rent and so the rent is covered. And that made me just take decisions regarding as an artistic view, not in a financial view. And that helped me a lot, actually, to go through it. And yeah, where comedians are not the most rich artists. Yeah, and that's totally fine, because we don't do it for money.
Johnny?
I've never depended on comedy to make a living. For me, always comedy and stand-up comedy was on the side, because I don't want to have this burden. Yeah. Of putting on stand-up comedy a lot of responsibilities, so that I can compromise what I can do with stand-up comedy or not. But I want to talk about, you were talking about performing in French and performing in English, and English is smaller than French. My terrain here started in Arabic, with Arabic-speaking audience, which is much more smaller in terms of community. But the language is extremely important in humor, because first it addresses who are you talking to, and second it addresses what you are talking about. So when I do my stand-up comedy in Arabic about the troubles and the issues that we live here in Canada, and that we still live with our past issues.
Legacy.
Yes, it's as if it's a different type of comedy. The topics change, the delivery change. You feel like you're preaching to the choir. We understand those problems. We come from the same sources, right? And it's kind of our common space in Canada that other people do not understand because of the language. It's our space that we share together, our commune, right? When I tried stand-up comedy in English, I tried it 2 or 3 times. It was totally different dynamic, because now you're opening up to a new audience. They don't know you. You are starting to know them a little bit, maybe, right? So it's a totally different dynamic, and you're talking to the audience whom you feel you are sharing the city, but also they are very much involved in the reality that you are living, right? They can change it or keep it, or so it's totally delivery, totally topics, total dynamics, and different energy as well. And I'm liking this new space. I think I'm going to spend more time in 2015 exploring.
Shall we take questions if we have?
Yes, we do have one online. Adams, if you would like to turn on your camera, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Up, Adams.
I want to thank you for your time, but I'm saying good evening, because I know it's actually noon time in your time, but I have to just use Nigerian time to talk. So I pray my geography teacher in the high school will not punish me for not knowing my time difference. Yeah. That being said, you guys, you've done a very great work in the studio, and I want to thank the organizers and the panelists for shedding more light on this very topical issue, because undoubtedly, humor is a form of art that has the power to delve into present societal issues, to challenge the status quo in a manner that is very unprecedented. However, my question is, I would probably like Sad, Johnny or Sandy to shed more light on how skit makers and content creators can use various social media platforms such as Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube to help people deal with indigenous harmful practices, stereotypes, and norms without being deemed to be subjective and, of course, inciting the public against authorities in a constituted government system. I would love you to just answer this question, because Nigeria is a nation that is blessed with great comedians like you, and we've taken over the social media space with our skits and very humorful ideas and stuff. So thank you, guys. I'll be looking forward to your answer. Thank you.
I think that the focus is on how you can use platforms to address issues that are indigenous and that are related to the one's own realities. So you can, how you can use those channels to put forward those issues. If I missed.
Yes, absolutely. I can actually, he typed it out, so I'll just
Okay,
read
perfect.
it really quickly for you guys.
Perfect.
So he just would like you to elaborate a little bit more on how skit makers and content creators can use social media platforms such as Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube to help people deal with the indigenous harms, stereotypes, etc., without being deemed subjective or inciting.
Amazing.
I think Facebook and social media are special channels for comedians, because for me, this is my personal experience, the topics that I talk about on social media, I talk about them differently than I talk about them on stage, for one purpose, is that what you put on stage as jokes, those are very difficult to design and very difficult to curate, and they become part of your repertoire of jokes, and once they go on social media, you lose them, right? So, and the only way to grow on social media and to have an impact and to spread the message is to talk about those issues. So how I approach this is I try to discuss the topics in a non-joke matter, in a reflective matter on social media with a little bit of wittiness, without crossing over to the joke element, right? I keep the joke part for the stage, and when the show is very much toured and exposed, I then start cutting it and putting it on social media. And I like the question because there's a lot of knowledge and learning that we need to do about realities and topics that I am not much knowledgeable about and aware about. So I don't talk about things that I'm not very much knowledgeable about. I have to do a lot of research, and sometimes the right timing about sudden topic in the news that is emerging. I feel there is a responsibility for me as a Canadian who is sharing this country, right? Who is sharing it with other different minority groups, and when there is some kind of injustice happening, I have to have a say. I have to have an opinion. How do I feel towards that, right? But I cannot just jump on it and say whatever I want. I have to cover the backgrounds, the context, the knowledge. This is why comedy isn't just about creating a joke and being funny. It's about knowing what you have on hand before you start designing and curating and acknowledging that it's a joke. but it sheds the light on something that is beneath the joke that we need to talk about. And this is how I approach that. But in social media, now the mainstream for comedians are two different directions. Either there's a lot of crowd work that they do on stage that is recorded, and this is not part of the show, and this is what they share in order to raise awareness about the topics and themselves as comedians. And there is also the comedians who do comedy or do jokes or do snippets of stuff outside the stage for social media alone, so that they raise their fanhood and they raise awareness towards some important topics, and then they reciprocate it and they craft it more for the show itself, and it aligns together. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, I think you did. I just wanted to add that for me, well, first of all, I hate social networks. I hate doing videos on social networks, but I do it because it's kind of a homework. It's like school having homework, because it gives you visibility and gives you, like, for promotion, to promote your shows. It's a reminder. It's a reminder that you exist, and I hate to say it, but it's true. But I hate social networks, but I do I publish a video every Tuesday. And what I try, my angle to talk about my experience without being like just giving a lesson or just spitting facts. I do like videos where I talk like in front of the camera. Sometimes I would put crowd work, but sometimes I would just talk in front of the camera. And I like to act like stupid. I act like a stupid person and like unacknowledgeable. I like to fake ignorance. That's what I like to do. I like to fake ignorance in order to show the ignorance of the accidentals sometimes. I have one video where I talk about once I was at a show and someone was talking about the Black Friday, and I just asked a friend comedian, I asked him, hey, when is Black Friday? And he looked at me and he was like, oh, Black Friday. So Black Friday is a day where there's a lot of discounts. And that's where I realized he heard what is Black Friday. And I'm pretty sure if I was a white person, he wouldn't explain to me Black Friday. He would just be like, oh, shut up. You know what Black Friday is. And he explained to me what Black Friday is. And I just sometimes, the Occidentals think that Africans or Arabic people are, they are ignorant about a certain subject, and I like to laugh about it. I have another video where I talk about when like inspectors in the metro like arrested me and asked me for my ticket, and it's a fake story, okay? Maybe not.
Sometimes we do it.
It's a fake story. But they asked me for my ticket, and I said, I don't have my ticket. I was honest, and then they were like, okay, give us your info, and I gave them my best friend's info. And they were like, they wanted to trick me because they knew I was lying, and they asked me, what's your astrology sign? And I said, what? And they were like, astrology sign. I was like, sorry, I'm Muslim, I don't know that. And they apologized. They were like, so sorry. So that kind of like...
So sorry.
So sorry. Yes, of course, you don't know. Of course. It's a kind of fake ignorance that I like to show just because, yeah, people don't know a lot about us, so they think we're stupid. And that's what I like to put on the internet. If you add something.
I don't have an experience in this. I do not put videos online, and I don't share my comedy material. I maybe share more posts where I write. This is something that I need to learn to navigate. Social media is work for me, so it's hard. But if I want to answer you, not thinking exactly about this, like as any platform, whatever you want to like say or contemplate, just show up to this content. This is the topic that is interesting for you. Open space for it. Find your own perspective in it and talk about it. Maybe talk about other people's perspective. You can play with the incongruity of making it extreme or like playing with opposites. you know, like anything we want in life, we just give it space and show up for it and play with it. You know, the world is your oyster, sir, from Nigeria. Yeah.
Any other question?
Thank you, guys. You are the best. I really love the answers. God bless you guys.
We do have another question from the chat. This one is from Eliette, and it's very short. Eliette is just wondering other ways to laugh about our egos.
Yes, for sure. To graduate from my drama therapy program here at Concordia, my research was creating an intervention based on developing humor habits to build resilience. And these humor habits go like in order by first introducing more play in our life. Having the habit of playing with our partners, with our like colleagues, with our friends, our children, introducing just more play, and play can come in so many different ways. Moving from there to connect more with our emotions and expressing our emotions, and this is not something easy because we live in a world that is constantly distracting us and oppressing our lived experience and our emotions. From there, we move to finding humor in everyday life. We live in the most absurd world. It doesn't take much to find humor in everyday life, but it takes a conscious choice to be looking for it, to be able to see it. From there, we move to like laughing at our own selves. There is a fact in life: if we want to learn something new, we need to fail. I, like, from also my training in clowning, we learn to celebrate our failures. And this is like a right that I have. I have the right to be stupid, I have the right to be a fool, and I have the right to fail. I am so genuinely attached to these rights because this is also a fight of the system that is so focused on success and achieve and produce. And in life, we will be winners for a few times, but we're gonna live our life learning to become graceful losers. I really believe that we come to this world to learn how to become graceful losers. Sitting with all these things, not taking ourselves too seriously, allowing ourselves to make mistakes would help us a lot to be able to laugh at the things that are maybe we don't like much in ourselves without having our ego being threatened. To say, yes, I don't know how to do this, but still see all the good things that I could do. This requires still I know, like even in therapy, the things that we're able to laugh at are things that we processed already. The things we cannot take a laugh at yet, this is work we need to do in therapy. So it's a great indicator to use humor to understand ourselves, to say where we're okay to play and where we're not. And being able to do that really could help us a lot to be able to find humor in the midst of stress, because it's the moment we need it the most. It will give us some distance and from the problem, just to be able to see different angles to deal with it. Because when we're stressed, really, all our senses really become so limited.
Tight.
Yeah, to focus on survival, because we're feeling threatened. Being able to not take ourselves too seriously would give us this fraction of a second, instead of reacting, to respond. Hence, it's so important to build our sense of humor. And I'm also saying that because this is my work, and I'm very biased, and I want to be hired, by the way, for other things and projects. Okay.
Oh my God, that was such a good answer.
I know.
Yeah, that was. You should really be hired.
You're not competing with her.
No, like ego-related. I think as a stand-up comedians, we fail a lot because, as Johnny said and Sandy, like when you write a joke, you do it on stage once, and it fails the first time, and it fails the second time, and it fails the third time, and then you learn how to actually deliver it and how to actually like what's the right word at the right place. So, yeah, like we have this thing of like our ego is like really like is big because we're on stage and like we're like regular human that decided at some point in their lives to be on a stage and talk about their experience. Like that's crazy. But at the same time, we have a really big balance because we bump a lot. You need to bump so you can evolve. Bumping is like not having any laughs on stage. And you need to have that so you balance yourself. And a friend of mine said once, we do, it's like what we do is like an emotional extreme sport. And I think that's, yeah, it's an emotional extreme sport. I don't know if you want to add something.
I think you see the difference when comedians go on stage and perform jokes that they've tried before. They know it's a good take for people to laugh at. Yeah. And then you go and you see the same comedians performing in open mics, trying jokes for the first time. There's a huge spectrum here between the way you need to be confident on stage when you know that this works. I've tried it a lot. And between going back to being humble and saying, okay, guys, I'm here. I have this new piece. Let's see if it's going to work or not. So for me, it's a process of continuous experimentation. We're experimenting, we're playing, we're figuring out what works, doesn't work. So we need to lower those walls that we have and those concepts that we acquired throughout history, throughout life, throughout situations, and to keep a door open for new beginnings, for new what-ifs, for new maybe, for new yes and, for all those possibilities, right? I don't think ego is the right channel to maneuver those. I think we need to be grounded with what we are talking about and be comfortable playing, accept whatever comes towards us, and then re-channel it back in a different way. So I like this lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
I just want to repeat what Sandy said earlier. It's just like when backlash shouldn't like touch your feelings, the compliment shouldn't actually. Yeah. Exactly. So you should like very separate about like everything what people are gonna say and just like your own person and focus on that.
No, it requires some humbleness and modesty to navigate this world, not thinking we're the center of the world. And working with our ego is this is the work to do every day in our life. And you will see that in how you react to, oh, how did he say this to me? Yeah, so what? So what? Like, who cares? So it really removes a burden on like your shoulders to say, it's okay, not everyone is going to love me. And I don't need to do well all the time. يعني. Who put this pressure on us in life? Seriously, it's so tiring already. And you want to do me well? Sometimes I'll do okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay. So we've been talking for 1 hour and a half now. It was really amazing. And as you said, Sandy, you mentioned that the best times of togetherness are when we smile and our smiles are wide and we can show who we are, because it's really like it's opening and being receptive, and laughter is amazing. And I think it's easy to gather and cry.
Yeah.
But it's very tough to gather and laugh in harmony. Like this laughter that joins us is totally different. So I think this is the power of laughter and the power of humor and the power of also letting go all our defense mechanisms and just use your body expression to express that it's good to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's good to laugh. And even if the laughter is mixed sometimes with that bitterness coming from somewhere. But I think, as you said, that this tension between those two parts that make us able to move and wake up every day and say like we exist and to live with it. And the ability to laugh at one own self is amazing because this is how we grow. Huh? Yeah. This is how also we teach children and youth at school that it's okay. It's okay if you don't mark all the tests. It's okay if you're not the first one, the best one ever, but you are who you are in this space and your laughter matters. Yeah. And I think that was amazing to share those moments with you. I know that people were expecting performances, that you do stand-up comedy for us, and that you know that we have those expectations, but I think the most important thing that we lived with you today is also to learn your process and what does it mean for you to do what you do. And that was an amazing sharing. So thank you so much for that. Yes, to close it on an academic note. Yes, scientific studies show that laughter creates positive bonds between people. So thank you for the bond that you've created today. Thank you for the fourth space. Thank you, CSLP, CIPA, and Press, and Indigenous Healing Knowledges for hosting this event, and we will follow you.
Thank you, Zeina, for inviting us. Seriously, that was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Zeina. Thank you for being here also. Thank you.
Thank you for creating this space and for inviting us. We should do this more often.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zeina. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, everyone coming also in the audience, joining us online. We're going to be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now, but to remember, this conversation remains available on our YouTube channel, and you should revisit it and you should share it. And it's pretty snowy out there, but I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.
Amazing.